All right, people, we are back in business, back home. Been home for a week now, but this is the first Grill in Torah. We are back home in the beautiful, beautiful area of Judea, Israel. First week back for Grill in Torah. Let me get some people invited in here and see what we can start with. We got an amazing Parsha coming up. This week we're going to be reading in the synagogue and shul. A lot of really special messages, I guess, morals of the story that we can learn from this week. But the first thing we're going to be discussing, a really weird thing, is that this Parsha, this section we're going to be reading this week, the person whose name we use to name this Parsha is not only a non-Jew, which is okay because Noach was also a non-Jew, but a anti-Semite. I would say maybe, well, not the first anti-Semite, because we had, of course, Lavan with, well, it wasn't really anti-Semite Lavan because we didn't have Jews yet, but certainly Paro in Mitzrayim was a anti-Semite, and we have Amalek when we came out of Mitzrayim was an anti-Semite, but we have Bilaam and Balak, these two guys, these anti-Semites who really have it out for the nation of Israel, and we have to figure out why. So I'm just inviting some people in here, and of course I will look who's in the house and say hello to everyone in just 1 second. So my selfie stick broke, and I'm trying to get a tougher one to make sure it doesn't break again. So right now I'm using a makeshift stand, tripod, so if anything is shaking, whatever it is, you'll apologize. It's who's in the house. Thank you, Dedra, for sharing. Ephraim is in the house. What's going on, man? Let's see who else is in the house here. All right, feel free when you sign in to say hello. And let's see who's here on Grill in Torah this week. Anyone who signs in, first of all, I appreciate it if you just invite all your friends. Invite people who want to know a little bit of Torah before Shabbat. Let's get started in another 2 minutes. I'm just going to invite a couple of more people in here. And we are going to get started. We're going to talk a little bit about current events this week in Israel as well. We're trying not to get political because this is really supposed to be Torah time. So we'll keep the politics down. But, all right, here we go. Let's see who's in the house. All right, I see some likes coming in, some hearts coming in, so I know you can hear me. Awesome. John, what's going on? Sherry, hey, what's happening? All right, so do me a favor. I need the Harley there from you. Better believe it, man. All right, so first of all, Joanna, what's going on? Hello, everyone. Everyone who's signing in, if you don't mind, share the video. Invite your friends in right now. A little bit of Torah before Shabbat. I'm spraying the grill a little bit with some non-stick stuff so the chicken doesn't stick. So we have this Parsha this week, Balak. And the Parsha is named not only after a non-Jew, like I said, because Noach, by the way, was a non-Jew as well. But we know that the story of Noach came out as a positive one. But the story now of Balak, of this attempt to curse the nation of Israel, the question has to be asked, why are we naming Shabbat Shalom, Deborah, what's going on? Why are we naming a full Parsha in the Torah after an anti-Semite? Number one, how is it possible that a man whose whole goal in life was to curse the Jewish people, why are we naming a Parsha after? Why are we naming a Parsha after an anti-Semite? I mean, can you imagine, like, naming, I don't know, the state of Israel after Hamas or something, or after Hezbollah, or after Abu Mazen? Right? Can you imagine a Parsha in the Torah being named after Abu Mazen? It sounds ludicrous, ridiculous, right? And it's actually connected to the answer, but we'll get there in a second. But why is a Parsha in the Torah named after an anti-Semite? That's number one. Number two, something really, really strange is going on in this Parsha. As they're going ahead to try to curse Bnei Israel, how does God give the message that he cannot do so? Through a donkey, right? The pasuk says, "Hashem patach et pi aton." Hashem opened the mouth of the donkey and let the donkey speak. And that only happened after the donkey was walking, right? And it was knocking into things and walls. And Bilaam finally smacked the donkey. "What are you doing?" The donkey turned to him. "What do you want from me?" The donkey says to him, "What do you want from me? There are angels in front of me." You understand? The donkey saw the angels, and the prophet, it was one of the prophets, Bilaam was one of the prophets, did not see the angels themselves. And he says to the donkey, "What are you doing?" And the donkey says, "What do you want? There are angels in front of me." What is with the talking donkeys? What are we in Shrek or something? Right? Who's here? Who's in the house? All right, Lilia, thank you for sharing. Thanks. Awesome. How you doing? All right, so we really have to understand who is this guy? Who is this guy Balak? What is going on here? All right? So if you look at the beginning of the Parsha, right? So they're trying to curse the nation of Israel. And Bilaam, who's a prophet, right, from another nation, not a Jewish prophet, but he has prophecy though. It's not that he didn't have prophecy. He has prophecy. So what happens? He speaks to God the first time and he says, look, my link didn't work before. Which link? I'll look it up in a second. And he says to him, I want to curse Israel. And Bilaam says, all right, let me ask God if I'm allowed to do that. And God says to him, no. He says, no, you cannot curse Israel. Right? Then Balak comes the second time and says to Bilaam, I want to curse Israel. And Bilaam says to him, you know what? Why don't you sleep here tonight and I'll talk to God and see what he has to say. Now, if God already said the first time you can't curse Israel, what are you telling him to sleep over and see what God's going to say? You know what God's answer is. So this is really interesting. Bilaam, Rachel, what's going on? Bilaam was a prophet. He received prophecy from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from God. And he was not Jewish. Right? But the issue is, he took his level of spirituality, of prophecy, to a level that's not to be taken to. In other words, he got prophecy from God. But he was trying to shape the prophecy into what he wanted to do. He wanted to curse the nation of Israel. And why, by the way? Why? For what reason? And so instead of saying to Balak, he said, listen, I can't do that. God ordered me not to curse the nation of Israel. He says, why don't you sleep over tonight and I'll talk to God. I'll have a little discussion with God and see if he'll change his mind for me. Right? What are you doing? Because what happened was Bilaam did not understand that prophecy is a tool. Okay? And if you don't use the tool correctly, not only are you not a righteous person, you are an evil person. So when Bilaam got the answer from God, he obviously did not like the answer because he had his own personal wants. He wanted to curse the nation of Israel. But the way he presented himself, the way that Bilaam was like a righteous person. You know, I'm sure he walked with his head down. I'm very modest. I'm very this. You know, oh, sleep tonight. And again, let's try to figure this out. Let's figure out how we can do this. Like he was acting like a righteous person. Let's figure things out. Let's make some kind of compromise. But you see, when God says no, there's no compromises. You can't make a compromise. Who is the opposite of Bilaam, by the way? Who is the opposite person? Who do you think the opposite person of Bilaam, where when God says to do something, there's no compromise, there's no, well, what if I don't want to, what if I do want to? Who is the other side of this coin that God commanded him to do something which was completely out of character for who he was, and not a question? Not a question. I'll give you a hint. Both of them had donkeys involved in the story, right? So for those of you who are thinking about it, Deborah Jones, how are you? I want a special shout out to Deborah Jones. Those of you did not read my status on Facebook, by the way, about the electric guitar that my son gave. Deborah Jones right there from Florida. I cannot thank you enough. Amazing story. For those of you who read it on my Facebook. Anyway, Joanna, I see, wanting his own agenda. Absolutely, Joanna. But the other person was Abraham, right? Abraham, what is a trait of Abraham? We say that all the forefathers had traits, and we're going to talk about Hebron in 1 second, Mr. UNESCO, if you're listening. But all the forefathers had traits. Avram had a trait. Yitzchak and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they had traits. The trait of Avram was chesed, was being kind. So the commandment that God gave to Avram was the commandment of Akedat Yitzchak, to slaughter your own son for a sacrifice. Now, if there's anything so antithetical to Abraham, that's slaughtering your own son. Nah, it's not 40, it's all right, it's good, kids. We're not 40 degrees. We're slaughtering your own son, but Avram doesn't ask any questions. In fact, Avram the next morning gets his own donkey ready to go. Right? Fantastic, Deborah. He gets his own donkey when he goes to do what God says to do. And here also, it says that Bilaam got his donkey ready. There was only one difference between what Bilaam was doing and what Avram was doing. Avram was doing the will of God. Bilaam was doing the will that was directly in opposition to what God wanted. So it doesn't matter how modest Bilaam might act and how nice he might act. He's going directly against the will of God, and therefore no righteousness, self-righteousness will work. If you're going against the will of God, it doesn't matter how you're doing it, nicely or not. You're going against the will of God. It's very simple. You can't do that. So that's what Bilaam. So what happens? Well, Bilaam figured he's a prophet, right? He could do what he wants, right? I'm a prophet. I can do what I want. God gave me the power to hear the communications from the heavens. Therefore, I can do what I want. I could even have a little discussion with God. In other words, I could tell God what to do, to dictate. Now, we know, again, with Avram Avinu, with Abraham, when God says, I'm destroying the city of Sodom, the city of Sodom, right? So Avram does argue with God, right? Hypothetically, right? He argues and he says, oh, come on. What if there are 100 people who are righteous in that whole city? You're going to destroy the whole city? even though there are 100 people there, and 90 and 80 goes down to 10. So Abraham was arguing, Dylan, what's going on? Abraham was arguing with God in order to save people. But Bilaam is arguing with God not to save people, but to curse the nation of Israel, which God directly said to him, you cannot do. So what happens? Balak comes back and they're trying to plan a second time and a third time, and God says no. Okay? What happens at the end? Bilaam takes money from Balak and everything. He's got his own agenda. You see, being a prophet, is not only receiving messages from God, because according to Jewish, what Bilaam and Russia didn't do, the curse on the children of Israel, UNESCO did. You know what? I hear what you're saying, but the point is that prophecy is a tool. You see, what happens is, according to everybody, the prophecies were not given in clear-cut messages. You had to infer what they meant. The prophet had to be on a level that he could understand what God's message is. Okay, by the way, everyone who's here, welcome. Feel free and please invite people in and share the video. Okay, so what happens is he figured he got prophecy, right? He's a head rabbi, and therefore he could do whatever he wants. And no, that's not what it is. Your status, whatever you are in this life, doesn't allow you to do what you want. In fact, your status in life makes you responsible to do what you like. Let me explain what I mean. If you're a religious person, if you're a religious Jew, for example, right, and you got a kippah on, you got your tzitzit on, and you're acting very religious. Hey, Miriam, Shabbat Shalom, right? And you go out and you do something wrong. It's much worse than if a person who doesn't believe in God and is not religious and does something wrong. It's much worse because you're out there saying, look at me, status of a religious person, and you're acting like that. It's totally horrendous, right? And I will say, I don't care what you wear on your head or what color your clothes are or whatnot. If you act like a behemoth, if you act like an animal, that's what you are. It doesn't matter what you wear. Okay, even a prophet. Here, Bilaam was a prophet. It doesn't matter. Bilaam had his own agenda. He tried to use his prophecy for his own agenda. So what does God do? God does the one thing that you got to do to a prophet who thinks he's a big shot because he has prophecy. Well, who did he give prophecy to when the who should God give prophecy to when the prophet himself is acting like a big shot? What is the one being in this world that's you're a jackass, right? You give it to a donkey. So what happens? Bilaam's riding his donkey on the way to curse whatever he thinks he's going to curse. The donkey's moving, squeezing his legs. Bilaam starts smacking the donkey. And the donkey says, what are you hitting me for? The donkey opens his mouth. Says, what are you hitting me for? Why are you smacking me? And Bilaam says, what do you mean? Why are you smashing my leg against the wall? And the donkey says to Bilaam, don't you see the angels in front of us with swords? And Bilaam says, no. Now, besides the fact that he's having a conversation with the donkey, understand what's going on here. The donkey sees the angels. Bilaam, the prophet, doesn't. Because Bilaam lost the ability. Tippy, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. And John, thank you for sharing. Bilaam lost the ability to see something above physical world. He lost it. He used his prophecy for ill things, and therefore he lost the ability. And a donkey was able to see it. The message is clear. God said to Bilaam, you think you're so great because you're seeing prophecies? God says, I'm in charge of prophecy, Hashem says. I give it to you, and when you're saying wrong, I can give it to a donkey. You're not so special. I chose you. That's true. But you used your prophecy for evil. And therefore, the best thing to do is to use a donkey. Right? And say to him, you think you're so good? Even a jackass is better than you. The donkey is better. He sees the angels and you don't. Now what happens? Really cool stuff. What happens is the curses that Bilaam wanted to curse the nation of Israel turned into blessings. Okay? And one of the blessings, he uses two words in one of the sentences. He calls the nation of Israel a Lavi. A Lavi is a female lion, a lioness, right? And then the second part of that same sentence, he calls, that's hot. He calls the nation a lion, right? And all the Mepharshim ask, what is the story? Why are you switching from lioness to lion? And the answer is the following. Amazing. I saw it today. It was such an amazing. I really got excited when I saw this. It says the nation of Israel is like a lion. Now a lion, according to what the sages say, the lion is stronger than the lioness. In other words, the lion is, he's the king of the jungle, right? There's no queen of the jungle, right? So the lion is stronger than the lioness. So at first he calls Israel a lioness. And then the second part of the sentence, he calls the nation of Israel a lion. Why switch over? Why not call both of us lions or lionesses, whatever? The answer was beautiful. I just saw it inside just now. The answer is, Bilaam says, the nation of Israel alone are very strong, like a lioness. The lioness is also strong, goes hunting, right? The lioness is strong. Hey, Paulina, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. So he says, the nation of Israel is like a lioness. They're strong. But with God, they're like a lion. They're even stronger. In other words, Bilaam could not get the curse out of his mouth. He even tried to bring our level down, say we're like lionesses. But at the end of the sentence, he says, the nation was like a lioness, was strong. And then he finishes off that with God, we're even stronger. We started with the lioness ourselves. We're strong. But when God's in the picture, we put God in our corner, we become like a lion, even stronger than that. And that was the blessing at the end, where Bilaam tried to get cursing out of his mouth. He couldn't do it. Now look, when it comes to us, why do we have a full part of the Torah that's named after an anti-Semite? Not to honor the anti-Semite, of course, but to teach us a lesson. It's a lesson meant to be learned from this man. Okay, and apparently if the whole part of this Torah is named after a non-Jewish anti-Semite, apparently the message is very, very important. What's going on, Jordan? Jane, welcome. What's the message? The message is clear. You got prophecy? Don't think it's such hot stuff. If you don't use a prophecy for good, you're worth a donkey. The donkey can see it, you can't see it. And this is the message that we're giving to everybody in the world, not just Jews, because Bilaam was not a Jew. And the answer is the following. We are given things in our life. God gives us things, and God takes things away also. And everything's a lesson. Again, I don't want to be tested. But the point is, there's something called Gam Zulatova. This is also for the good. Whatever happens to us is God's decisions. There's a famous part of Judaism that says in this world, before the redemption, in this world there's two brachot, two blessings we make. One is a tov v'meitiv. What's on the grill? I got chicken and hot dogs this time. One is a tov v'meitiv. We bless God and good things that happen. We drink good wine. It's a tov v'meitiv. And there's the opposite blessing of Baruch Dayan HaEmet, bless God who's the ultimate judge. And now we see when bad things are happening, we say we accept the judgment, and God is judgment of everything. But he says in the world to come, there's only be one blessing, HaTov HaMeitiv, the good one. So people ask, what do you mean? When people get hurt, how are you going to say HaTov HaMeitiv? He says, when things are clear in the world to come, we see who's in charge, God's in charge of everything. Even when bad things happen, it's going to be clear to us, Gam Zulatova, this is also for the good. And therefore, IDF News, thank you for sharing. Therefore, in the world to come, we have to say everything is good. Now, listen, the tools that we get in life from God, whoever we are, Jewish or not Jewish, it doesn't matter. The tools that we get, if we use the tools for good, we can get up to levels, unbelievable spiritual levels. If we use the tools for bad, we can get to the lowest levels, almost like animals. And this is, by the way, it's brought down in Bereshit. B'dgat Hayam, it says that the humans will go down and with the animals. What does that mean? Well, if we behave ourselves like humans above the social ladder, then we'll be in charge of the animals. Well, if we behave ourselves in ill manners, we'll be like owned by the animals. It's our choice. The world has given us to make a choice, and this is a very important lesson. Why is there choice? Why did God just create everything perfect? Why do I have to make a choice? Why do I have to be evil in the world? Why does there have to be evil inclination? Why can't God make me an angel? Why do we have an evil to do things? And the point is, the whole existence of the human race is for choice. Why? Paulina, thank you so much for sharing. Why? Because the whole goal of the world being created, according to Jewish tradition, was that God would be able to share his goodness with others. In order for us to enjoy that goodness, we have to choose it. In order for us to choose it, we have to have the ability to say yes or no to evil and good. A perfect example, right? You want to get married, you want a girlfriend, whatever it is, right? If you put a gun to someone's head and say, so you love me, and they say they love you, there's no relationship there. There was a gun to their head, right? Only when there's an ability to choose is there a relationship. And that's what God wants. And therefore, there is choice in the world for good and bad. And we have to take that choice. And it doesn't matter. Don't say, well, if I had... Balak is the abbreviation of Barakat. Let's see, yeah, good. We can't say, well, if I was like him, then I'd be better. You can't say that. God gives everyone their special tools, what they need for life. Now, in terms of us in the land of Israel today, in the state of Israel today, okay, God gave us a present. He gave us a present. He brought us back to the land of Israel after 2,000 years of exile, being kicked out and killed and gassed and shot all around the world. And they told us, go home, and now we're home. And what is UNESCO doing? UNESCO is trying to strip our tradition. Now, let me give UNESCO a little bit of update here, okay? Look, we faced Paro, he's gone. We faced the Romans, they're gone. The Assyrians, they're gone. The Greeks, they're gone. Hitler's gone. You're not going to win. You're just not going to win. Not because we're so great, because you're so evil. That's why. You're not going to win. I am not nervous even the slightest bit. UNESCO means nothing to me. Shabbat Shalom, Carolyn. Nothing. Hebron doesn't belong to the Jews. Abraham, Isaac, and Japheth, the cave of the patriarchs, you have Sarah, Rivka, and Leah are buried there. Doesn't belong to the Jews. Like, who are you fooling? You're ignoring history? You're ignoring biblical history? What? I'm not nervous over this. The biggest problem is us. All of us watching is the biggest problem. When we cannot get up on our hind legs and roar that Jerusalem is ours, period, end of discussion. That we are not willing to go back to the words of East and West Jerusalem, which was created in 1948 by the Jordanian Legion, who cut Jerusalem in half and literally made an apartheid state with a wall going down the middle where Jews were not allowed to go to the old city. So how is it that Israelis, or Jews anywhere, or Christians anywhere, anyone around the world, could, by the way, we want to go back to that East and West Jerusalem. That was a good solution. Where are the human rights activists? Where are they? Because again, UNESCO, like Bilaam, exactly like Bilaam, are in a position that they could do good for the world. The UN is in a position that they could do good for the world. Abbas was in a position he could do good for the world. But these people are evil. They're evil. And just like Bilaam, who made himself into a righteous man, oh, I'm righteous, let's see what God's going to say. The same thing with every one of these organizations. The UN saying we're a human rights organization. UNESCO saying we're all about, social, and Abbas saying, oh, I'm a peace partner. They're all evil people. Evil people lie. The question is, do we, the moral ones, the honest ones, do we say, you're not getting away with this? We're not dealing with this anymore. We're not going to allow you the voice to lie anymore. That's the question that we have for us. Unfortunately, this week, Benjamin Netanyahu vetoed a vote in the Israeli Knesset on a Jerusalem unity law. What does that unity law mean? Meaning at any time in the future, at any point where we're making negotiations with terrorists, and I'll say that again, with terrorists, if we vote to split Jerusalem up, to give the capital to some other people, you need 80 members of Knesset to vote for it. That is impossible. Never will be 80 Knesset who say, I want to split up Jerusalem. Therefore, this vote would have allowed to make splitting up of Jerusalem a total and complete impossibility. And Bibi Netanyahu vetoed that decision for political reasons. And I think that it's these kind of political games that are causing people like UNESCO to vote against us. To have the audacity to get up there and say Hebron is not Jewish and Jerusalem is not Jewish. What do you want from them? What do you want from them when our prime minister is bidding along to unify Jerusalem? What do you want from them when our own people won't go to, they call Hebron an occupied city, that the Jews occupied Hebron? Ludicrous. Before 1929, the majority there were Jewish, until the Muslims slaughtered the Jewish population there and kicked them all out completely. So I really am not looking at the Bilaams of the world. I'm not worried about them. God will take care of them. We have to take care of us. We have to make the right decisions. We have to make the right choices. And again, we're strong. As a nation, we're strong. We're like a lioness. But if we have God in our corner, we're like the lion, and nobody can beat the lion. All right, people, that's about it for this week. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take questions. If not, I'm asking everybody here a couple of favors. Number one, and I forgot the link. Can someone go on the Standing Together site and give me the link for the campaign, the summer campaign? Those of you who were watching this past week, I was all over the country. It was boiling hot. And we're talking about 100 degrees plus, literally 100 degrees. And the organization that I run, Standing Together, we were out there driving from morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, till evening. Literally got home, 8, 9, is over 12 hours. And we were bringing refreshments and ice cream and cool drinks and cakes and whatnot and wishes and letters from people all over the world to IDF soldiers on the front lines. I cannot tell you, when you saw some of the videos, the smiles on their faces and the appreciation they have, the disbelief that they don't believe that people from all over the world are actually sending these kind of gifts. They don't know that people appreciate them so much. So I'm asking everyone to please hit one of those links. Someone find them. It's on stogether.org. But if you can find the link quickly and put it up here, I appreciate it. If you go to stogether.org, S like standing, stogether.org, right there's the donate button. You can see the summer campaign right there. And again, look, you can do $18 if you want. If you want to donate more, we need another $5,000 approximately to cover the next couple of weeks. Okay, we're talking thousands and thousands of soldiers. So if you want to do a bigger donation, that's fine. I'm happy to announce that next week or the week after, I'll be going to Holland to speak. They invited me to go to Holland and speak about Israel and for Standing Together. I am planning another trip to the U.S. in November. And of course, I'm open to go anywhere else where people support the IDF in Israel to speak to you and have you and join us as we continue to say thank you to IDF soldiers. I will put on the link in 1 second when we're done with this. Again, remember, please, everyone, share the video and have an awesome Shabbat, have an awesome weekend from the beautiful, stunning hills, Judean hills of Israel. Absolutely. And any of you ever come to Israel, just give me a ring, give me a buzz. We'll get together. I'll take you a tour around the old city. You know what I'm saying? Definitely give me a buzz. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Signing off from the beautiful, stunning, rolling hills of Judea, Israel.